Hi, this is Janet DuBois, and I am going to visit with the clarinet players that are going into high school, that are in 8th grade now, and anybody that's in high school to talk about some of the things that I might do to be able to play the WTAMU band camp music the best of my ability. So I was going to look at the beginning and notice a couple of things. One is that the metronome marking is a dotted quarter note equals 60 plus. And that means that the dotted quarter note is getting the beat, not the quarter note like you normally see. So I am going to have you practice this and change it over to the eighth note getting the beat. So I'm going to do some math. That's a good practice for us. And the top tempo that we maybe want to go would be the eighth note equals 180 because 3 times 60 is 180. I think a better tempo to start off with is much slower than that. In fact, one of our practice tempo is going to be the eighth note equals 120. But you can practice it even slower than that until you get started and you know what you're doing. But we're going to keep it so the eighth note is always getting the beat. And if the eighth note gets the beat, then the quarter notes are going to get 2 beats. And the dotted quarter notes are going to get 3 beats. So if you keep that in mind, this is really not going to be as hard as what it looks like. So we're going to make the eighth note get the standard beat when I record it. Okay, the other thing I'm going to notice is that it has an F sharp in the key signature. So I'm going to go through, and you might see that I've done that, like measure 3 and measure 5 and measure 7. They all have F sharps in them. So if you'll just mark them right at the beginning, then you won't have to think so hard or have the problem of maybe practicing a wrong note. In measure 9, where it starts with variation 1, the first 2 measures seem like they're in one key. That's the one we've been playing in, possibly the key of G. And so we're going to play F sharps. But then in measure 11, you're going to want to notice that the Fs are natural. And that's going to sound a little different to you. When you play measure 9 and measure 11, you're going to think, whoa, did I do something wrong? But if you keep everything the way that it's written and just make sure you play the F natural going up and going down, that's going to be right. Then look in measure 13. There's 2 things that happen. One is, this is one of the only 2 places that we are asked to play soft. All of the other places, it's mezzo forte or crescendo, but this is our soft place. So we're going to play this very soft until the crescendo in measure 15, and that's going to show off our ability to do dynamics. And the other thing is, we're going to watch the key signature there. All of a sudden, it looks like we're more in the key of B flat instead of G. So we're going to play E flat going up, F natural going up, and then it's still F natural going down, E flat going down, B flat going back down. So it's really just like the beginning of your B flat scale right there. So don't let all those accidentals throw you off. You know all of those notes, and it's going to be great. But then in measure 15, you're going to go back to the original key. So the B is going to be middle again, B natural, and then you still have F sharp from the key signature at the end of that measure in 15. So I think this variation has the most accidentals in it that maybe you have to pay attention to. And it might sound a little different to your ears because it's changing keys every 2 measures, but it's going to be right. You're also going to want to watch the articulation throughout this whole piece, but especially in variation 1, you want to make a big difference between the staccato notes and then the nice slurs. And then at the end of each phrase, make the notes nice and long and full value. Really watch the dynamics. Again, in this variation is the main variation that's going to include dynamics for us. And it's a nice range for the clarinet, so it's going to be fun to play that. Okay, going on to variation 2. We still are going to mark our F sharps. You're going to notice in measure 18 that once you get to the note A, in the 16th note, you're going to have, it's the chromatic scale. So A sharp is B flat, and you're going to use your chromatic fingerings. And then in measure 19, you're going to keep going up, but it's not chromatic anymore. Make sure you play F sharp both times in measure 19. And then in measure 20, you're going to have an accidental C sharp, and then it's going to carry over to that other C sharp. Then when you go into measure 21, it has a C natural, which is just the way we normally play C. And then still more F sharps in there. There's 3 F sharps that you'll want to mark. Measure 22 has an F sharp. And then at the end of measure 22, you're going to see grace notes. You're going to give each of those eighth notes 1 beat. And then you're going to slip those grace notes in before beat 6. And when I play it for you, you'll hear it, but it's going to be easy. We're not going to accent it. We're just going to lightly tongue. And it's just going to be like a cute little extra thing in that measure. So nothing too challenging. And then we also have another quick grace note in measure 24. And that's going to be B natural, our middle. We're just going to tongue it, go down to the A, not accented, not anything spectacular. It's just going to slip in there very easily. Variation 3, I think, is my favorite. It is the most fun, and I think it's the most clarinet friendly. You will find yourself playing B natural with both pinkies a lot in this variation. It makes it, I don't know, I think it makes it kind of fun for us. But again, we're going to want to look at where the F sharps are. So you're going to see one in measure 26 and measure 27. We have an accidental C sharp in measure 28, measure 29, I have an F sharp. And then going down under that slur at the end of 29, I wrote TK, that stands for trill key. That's chromatic, and you're going to use your trill key or your banana key going down so that that's nice and smooth, because that's a little portion of the chromatic scale. The hardest measure, I'm going to go closer, is measure 30. And that has 4 grace notes in there, and you probably haven't done that a whole lot. So the way I've marked it is, remember our eighth note is getting the beat. So that dotted quarter, even though it really should get 3 beats, I am going to make beats 1 and 2 for the D. Then on beat 3, I'm going to play those grace notes. And so the dotted quarter is going to share. It's sharing its beats with the grace notes that are there. And then beat 4 and 5 will be the E. And then you go to the C natural that's there on beat 6. So you'll hear that when I play it, but that's the way you're going to count it, is just think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's going to work out really well for that measure, even though it looks kind of complicated. And then we have another trick in measure 31. We're going to be playing B natural. Well, to get from B natural to my 2-side key F sharp, which is what I would normally use for the chromatic scale, that's hard. That's kind of hard, even though it's tongued, unless your hands are pretty good size. And some of you do have good size hands, and you can do it. So if you like to go from B natural and then hit the 2-side keys for F sharp and keep playing all your chromatic notes, that's great. If that's hard for you, because especially some of you younger players might feel like, wow, I can't get from B natural to the 2-side keys, that's too hard, then why don't you flip? And we don't like to flip a lot, but sometimes it just works better. It's nice that we have it as an option when we need to. So I'm going to play B natural, and I think I'm going to play top F sharp and then flip to my F natural and then keep playing the chromatic scale. And again, where I wrote TK, you're going to want to use your banana key or your trill key there and just play your regular chromatic scale fingerings for 31. So it's not really a hard part, because we're pretty good at the chromatic scale. It's just getting into it from the B natural. You're just going to, I would try it both ways. Try it several times trying to use the side key and see if that works. And if you don't like it, go ahead and flip. I think that'll be fine to do there. And then we have measure 32, which is just our G major 2-octave arpeggio. And we're going to lightly tongue it with our nice staccato notes. And then in measure 33 is our last thing that's soft. That's the only other soft place in the whole piece. And we get to play our nice, beautiful low G with a staccato and nice and soft. All right, so that pretty much covers what we're doing for this piece. I think I need to mention again with our counting that while the 8th note is getting the beat, the 16th notes are all like 8th notes. So when we play, like in variation 1, we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 3, 4, 6, 1. It's not going to be super fast. I know you guys, and I know you look at that and you think, oh my gosh, it goes so fast. But it really is going to be nice, because the 16th notes that you see a million of there, we're just going to get, they're going to be like 8th notes. And when we get it all the way up to tempo, it's going to seem kind of fast still, but you don't have to do that right away. You can spend a lot of time. In fact, I don't think you ever need to get it up to 8th note equals 180. especially if you're one of my 8th graders. If you are going to band camp and you're going to be in high school, you'll want to approach that more if we get to have band camp. But if you're just getting ready to record this for your band audition, I think anything between 120 and 180 is going to be very good. Just make sure that you don't start at one speed and play the beginning at 180, and then as it gets harder, you start going slower and slower. I would pick one tempo and just do it all the same. It kind of makes sense, huh? That variation 2 and variation 3, they're the ones that you're going to have to see if you can get faster. They're the most difficult ones. And then the last thing we're going to double check, and I talked about it a little, is that Dr. Brooks, when he writes these pieces, he wants you to pay attention to his little details that he puts in there. And one of his things that he likes to check with you on is your articulation. So you notice the theme has a lot of slurs. You're only going to tongue like 4 times in the whole theme. So it's going to be smooth and big full sound and very gorgeous, because again, that's a beautiful range for us to play in. And then when we do variation 1, we're going to add our nice crisp staccato and along with our dynamics, but just make sure that when it's slurring, and when it's tonguing. Don't miss that little detail. When people judge you, that's one of me personally, I count articulation mistakes just as much as a note mistake. So when it's says to tongue, and make sure you're paying attention to that. The most different tonguing maybe is variation 2. There's a slur and then staccato, and then I don't know, there's it looks like measure 22. We've got tongue 2 or slur, tongue slur, and then a whole big slur in measure 23. So really pay attention. I think variation 3, like I told you, it's my favorite. It's got some accents in there. So that's something you might want to add in, and you're not going to punch it with all your might, but you're just going to give it a little bit of stress more maybe than the other notes that you're playing, because that's what Dr. Brooks wrote in there. If he didn't want those to be accented a little bit, he wouldn't have written that for you. So make sure that you're playing those notes, and they're not marked staccato, but I think they're still going to have more of a staccato and separated feel because we're jumping around so much on the clarinet. So keep it still light, even though you have the accents in there, but try and make a little bit of a difference there, just so that people know that you are really paying attention. And then, yes, in measure 31, you're going to start slurring that chromatic scale, and then you pick right back up with the tonguing. So really watch out for those details as you start practicing. Now that we're home a lot more, you have really a lot of time that you can put that attention in there, and just do a little bit at a time. Just do the theme, and then when you think that's going good, then add on a variation, and then maybe do another variation. Don't sit and try and do the whole thing all at once. Just take your time with it, and like I say, really slow it down and give it really good attention to detail. And then when everything you think is ready, then you can start speeding it up little by little. All right, this was really fun. The next recordings I'm going to do are the 2 performances at different speeds. See you then.